The shuttle's engines hummed as it descended toward the alien world of Zyra Prime. Captain Elias Ward gripped the armrests of his seat, trying to calm the subtle tension that twisted in his chest. He had faced hostile planets, strange life forms, and the unknown depths of space, but nothing quite prepared him for a summons from an alien queen. The invitation had been formal, almost elegant, and terrifying in its implications. The planet below was a swirl of vibrant colors, seas that shimmered with green and purple hues, and forests whose trees bent and twisted in ways that defied Earth physics. As the shuttle pierced the thick atmosphere, Elias glimpsed the sprawling city in the valley below. Towers of translucent crystal rose like spires of light, connected by glowing bridges that pulsed with energy. Alien ships hovered in patterns that made the city feel alive. When the shuttle finally landed on a smooth platform, the doors hissed open, and Elias stepped into a world that seemed alive with strange energy. He was greeted immediately by figures in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid metal. Their faces were angular, eyes deep pools of color shifting with emotion. These were the palace attendants, and they did not smile. To them, Elias was both a curiosity and a challenge, an unpredictable variable in a world where predictability was sacred. "You may enter," said a voice that resonated in his mind rather than his ears. Elias realized immediately that it was not spoken aloud but projected, a form of alien communication that bypassed human senses. He adjusted quickly. Humans were adaptable after all. The hall he entered was vast, stretching far beyond the limits of his vision. The walls were crystalline, reflecting lights in patterns that made it dizzying to look at. The floor was smooth, but Elias could feel vibrations beneath his boots, subtle hums that seemed to respond to his movements. And at the far end of the hall, seated on a throne carved from a single block of iridescent crystal, was the queen. She was tall, regal, with skin that glimmered faintly as if dusted with starlight. Her eyes, large and almost hypnotic, studied him with curiosity and authority. Beside her, perched like a jewel, was the figure of Lysara, her daughter. Even from this distance, Elias could see the striking elegance of her form, the way light seemed to curve around her like it feared to touch. She was undeniably beautiful, but there was also a sharp intelligence in her gaze, one that made him wary and alert. "You are Elias Ward, human," the queen said, her voice calm but commanding. "We have observed your kind. You are intriguing, but I must ask, why do you not seek the company of my daughter?" To insult or misstep could have consequences he couldn't yet imagine. He chose the truth, but wrapped in diplomacy and charm. "She is too beautiful," he said simply. A ripple of amusement passed over the queen's features. He had expected curiosity, perhaps suspicion, but the faintest curl of a smile, that was unexpected. "Too beautiful," she repeated, as though tasting the phrase. "And yet you come here unafraid into my halls. You risk much for what reason?" But humans were nothing if not adaptable, and he had survived impossible odds before. "You speak well," she said finally. "But words are easy. Actions reveal truth. You will remain in our city. You will be tested. And then perhaps we will know if your admiration is worthy." "I understand." In the distance, flying creatures moved like liquid ribbons in the sky, alien ships gliding alongside them, perfectly synchronized. Lysara appeared beside him, quiet and watchful. Her presence was calming yet intimidating. She had studied him silently through the hallways, her eyes curious but unblinking. "You speak differently than your people," she said softly, her voice melodic, almost musical. "They often stumble over words. You do not. Your kind humans are known for resilience, yes, but also for recklessness. Which are you?" "My mother tests all who enter her halls. Many have failed." The humans' architecture, the way they moved, their way of interacting, all of it fascinated the queen and her attendants. Elias noticed subtle whispers among the alien observers, a mix of caution and curiosity. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous in their structured world. By nightfall, Elias was brought back to the palace. The queen awaited him, seated in the throne room now illuminated by 1,000 floating lights, casting soft shadows across her crystalline features. "You have survived your first day," she said. "Many humans falter within minutes, many fail without grace. You seem different. But tell me, human, do you admire my daughter merely for her appearance or for her mind as well? You are careful, yes, but is this caution or fear?" "Interesting," she finally said. "Perhaps your kind is not as fragile as our scholars claim. Perhaps your human arrogance has merit after all, but tomorrow you will be tested. Intellect, courage, and moral judgment all will be examined. Fail, and you will not leave this palace alive. Succeed, and perhaps my daughter will see you as more than a curiosity. I accept. The alien architecture, while beautiful, radiated intelligence and subtle danger in every line. He settled onto the bed, mentally reviewing everything he had seen, heard, and sensed. Lysara appeared briefly, standing in the doorway. "Do not be fooled by appearances," she said. "This palace, my mother, even I, there is more here than you can imagine. Yet, you intrigue me, human. Survive tomorrow, and we shall speak again." She was undeniably beautiful, yes, but there was a fire in her mind, a curiosity that mirrored his own. He realized that this journey would be unlike any other. Here, in a world alien and magnificent, humans were not expected to survive or excel. But perhaps that was exactly why they could. And so, as the alien night deepened, Elia's ward closed his eyes, readying himself for the trials ahead. For in the world of Zyra Prime, only the clever, the brave, and the adaptable would thrive, and humans, it seemed, had all three in abundance. The Queen's palace hummed with quiet power, unaware that this human would not merely survive. He would leave an impression that no alien would forget, and perhaps, just perhaps, change the way they viewed his species forever. The morning sun, or what passed for sunlight on Zyra Prime, shimmered over the palace in soft, dancing hues. Captain Elia's ward awoke to the quiet hum of the city below. The air in his chamber felt alive, almost like it was breathing, and he could sense the subtle currents of energy flowing through the palace walls. Humans might be rare here, but Elias had learned long ago to observe, adapt, and prepare. Today would be the start of his real test. He dressed quickly, keeping his movements calm and deliberate. He could feel eyes watching him even before he stepped out. The palace was not merely a building, it was a living system of observation. Every step, every glance was recorded, analyzed, and interpreted. Humans had survived by turning weakness into strength, and today that skill would be tested. Lysara met him in the hall as if by chance, though Elias knew better. Her presence was calm, her gaze direct yet unreadable. "Today will not be easy," she said. "The trials are designed to break more than your body. They test your mind, your morality, and your ability to read others. Most humans fail at the first step." The floor was smooth and reflective, stretching into a horizon that seemed larger than the physical dimensions of the palace. Symbols floated in the air, shifting and rearranging themselves. In the center stood a pedestal, and above it a holographic projection of the Queen appeared. "Captain Ward," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "your first trial begins. You must navigate this chamber, understand its patterns, and reach the pedestal. Many have tried, all have failed. Human ingenuity will be tested here." While the alien design was meant to confuse, it also revealed itself to those who paid attention. With careful steps, he moved forward, analyzing, predicting, adjusting. Each step triggered responses, floors that rotated, walls that shifted, symbols that projected warnings. He kept calm, reminding himself that humans thrived in chaos, that uncertainty was an opportunity, not a trap. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. He avoided pitfalls that would have trapped or injured others. He recognized a pattern in the shifting symbols. They were not random, but based on logic, albeit alien. He applied human reasoning, intuition, and memory to follow the correct path. Finally, he reached the pedestal. A soft chime echoed through the chamber, and the Queen's projection appeared again. "You have completed the first step, human. Few reach this point without error. But do not grow complacent. The next trial will test your physical ability." A series of obstacles appeared, floating barriers, moving platforms, and energy pulses designed to sweep intruders off their path. He took a deep breath, focusing his mind. His training as a captain, his years of survival in hostile environments, and his human reflexes came together. He ran, leapt, and ducked with precision, analyzing patterns quickly and adjusting mid-motion. He noticed something about the energy pulses. They had a rhythm. Timing his movements to that rhythm allowed him to pass safely. At one point, a floating barrier moved unexpectedly, and Elias had only a fraction of a second to react. He rolled forward instinctively, catching the edge of the platform, and pulled himself up. A ripple of applause, or what he thought might be applause, from hidden observers echoed in the chamber. His human adaptability was not unnoticed. Finally, he reached the end of the corridor, panting but unharmed. The Queen's voice echoed again. "Impressive. Few beings can combine intelligence and agility as you do. But now comes the final trial, moral judgment. The other will perish. Your choice will reveal the true nature of your species. Decide quickly." Both, however, appeared equally real, equally human, or at least human enough to evoke empathy. He remembered Lysara's words: survival alone was not enough. Humans were defined by courage, intelligence, and morality. This was a test of all three. He stepped forward, observing the orb. Its glow pulsed, almost as if alive, and he realized the chamber itself was measuring his intent. He could not simply act without thought. A reckless choice could be fatal, not just for him, but for his perception in the court. He focused. Humans were cooperative, resourceful, and innovative. There had to be a way to save both. Carefully, he examined the orb, searching for a mechanism or hidden pattern. His intuition, honed through years of training and danger, guided him. The orb responded to his mental commands subtly, and he realized it could project a solution. With deliberate motion, he activated the orb. A soft light enveloped the figures, and their bonds dissolved. The illusions shimmered, revealing the true forms beneath. Both were alive, unharmed. Elias breathed a quiet sigh of relief. He had passed not by choosing, but by observing, thinking, and finding a solution that honored life. The Queen's voice echoed with something new: admiration. "You have done what many cannot. You have demonstrated intelligence, courage, and compassion. Your species is more than we expected, but do not mistake this for approval. The next stages will test your adaptability in the face of politics and intrigue. You may succeed or fail, human, but your actions today will be remembered." But humans thrived under pressure, turning danger into opportunity. He felt a quiet satisfaction. He had passed where others would have failed. Before he could settle into rest, Lysara appeared at the doorway again. Her expression was softer than before, a hint of admiration in her gaze. "You surprised me, human. Many of my people would have panicked. You found a way to succeed. I wonder, what else can your species do? I have no intention of failing where others have." The trials were more than physical or mental. They were a dance of intellect, observation, and strategy. Humans were uniquely suited to this kind of challenge, and he intended to prove it. He leaned back, letting his mind wander over the events of the day. The palace was a complex organism, alive with energy and intent. The Queen and her court were clever, but humans had advantages no one expected: adaptability, unpredictability, and a willingness to think beyond rigid rules. He had seen it today. In every moment he had survived the trials. As night fell over Zyra Prime, Elias realized something profound. This world, for all its beauty and danger, had underestimated humanity. They had expected him to falter, to fail, to be broken by tests no human had ever faced. But humans had a way of thriving where others would fall. It was not strength alone, nor cunning alone. It was the combination of intellect, resilience, and heart. Tomorrow, the trials would continue. Political intrigue awaited. Challenges he could not yet imagine would emerge, but Elias Ward was ready. Humans were not merely survivors. They were adapters, innovators, and, when necessary, disruptors. And in a world that valued precision and order above all else, that could be the greatest advantage of all. He closed his eyes, letting the gentle hum of the palace lull him into a deep, alert sleep. He dreamed of the city, of Lysara, of the trials to come. And in his heart he carried a quiet certainty. Humanity, underestimated though it was, had already begun to leave its mark on Zyra Prime. The palace pulsed softly around him, unaware that this human would not simply survive. He would thrive. He would astonish. And the Queen, the court, and perhaps even Lysara herself would come to realize that humans were a species unlike any other. Unpredictable, resilient, and in ways that even the most advanced aliens could not anticipate, extraordinary. The next morning, the palace was alive with a different kind of tension. The trials of yesterday had spread through the halls like a ripple, whispered in the voices of attendants, scholars, and nobles. Elias Ward could feel it. He was no longer just a human in the palace. He was an anomaly, a being who had passed the first tests with a mixture of intelligence, courage, and ingenuity that none had expected. As he walked through the crystalline corridors, the patterns on the walls seemed almost to shimmer in recognition. His human eyes scanned everything, from the energy currents beneath the floors to the subtle glances exchanged among the palace staff. He knew instinctively that the next trials would not be simple tests of skill or intellect. They would be tests of alliances, perception, and political cunning. Lysara appeared at the corner of a long corridor, her expression calm but with a hint of concern. "The court is unsettled," she said quietly. "Many do not trust you. Some believe your presence here is dangerous. Others are intrigued, but that is no shield. Beware of those who act friendly. They often are not. My mother watches closely, but so do the others." Their faces were a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and mild amusement. They had seen him survive the initial trials, but they wanted to know if he could survive the subtle game of politics. The queen appeared, her presence commanding silence without a word. "Today," she said, "you will navigate the court. Alliances, negotiations, and judgments will be your tests. You must discern friend from foe, truth from deception, and act with foresight. One misstep and the consequences will be severe." He moved carefully, listening, watching, analyzing patterns in tone, posture, and timing. The first task was subtle, a dispute between two nobles over the control of a strategic sector of the city's energy grid. Each tried to sway Elias, presenting arguments and data that appeared reasonable but contained hidden assumptions. Elias listened without interruption, noting inconsistencies and clues that revealed intent and motive. After a moment, he spoke. "Both arguments have merit, but neither considers the long-term stability of the sector. If the sector is controlled with short-term gain in mind, it will destabilize the energy flow, harming both factions. The solution lies in a collaborative approach, distributing responsibility with oversight from a neutral party." Elias had not only diffused a tense situation, but had done so with human diplomacy, innovative, fair, and effective. Lysara watched from the side, her eyes bright. "You surprise me," she whispered. "Most here would have attempted intimidation or manipulation. You think differently. We do not always play by the rules others expect." Immediately, the corridor shifted, walls bending in impossible angles. Holographic illusions appeared, designed to disorient and distract. At first, it was simple, moving walls and floating platforms, but soon the illusions grew more complex, figures that mimicked his companions, whispers of warnings, even fake corridors that led nowhere. He took a deep breath. Patience and observation were his allies. He walked slowly, testing each step before committing. Humans excelled under pressure, especially when the odds seemed impossible. He relied on his senses, intuition, and experience with unpredictability to distinguish reality from illusion. Midway, a figure appeared in his path, a noble in full ceremonial garb. "Turn back, human," the figure said, voice measured. "This task is beyond your comprehension. Leave, and perhaps mercy will be shown." The noble's eyes widened, then he vanished, an illusion fading under human observation. The trials continued, each step demanding focus, wit, and agility. He navigated shifting floors, illusionary walls, and false allies who attempted to mislead him. With each challenge, he relied on human adaptability, a trait alien minds had difficulty predicting. Where aliens valued rigidity and precise adherence to rules, humans thrived on flexibility and improvisation. Finally, Elias reached the council chamber. He presented the device and the council member examined it carefully. "You have arrived without error," the figure said, voice tinged with respect. "Few accomplish this. You are unusual human." "I do what is necessary." That evening, Elias returned to his quarters, exhausted but alert. Lysara awaited him, a faint smile playing across her lips. "You continue to impress," she said. "But know this, some here are plotting, not against you yet, but perhaps soon. You have survived challenges of intellect and agility. Soon you may face challenges of loyalty and perception. The court is more dangerous than any trial chamber. My mother has watched you closely, and I think she begins to respect your methods. But respect does not equal acceptance, that you must earn continuously." Elias sensed eyes on him even in moments of solitude. He studied them as he had studied the trials, noting patterns, anticipating moves, and preparing for what was to come. His mind returned to Lysara. There was more to her than beauty. Her intelligence and insight mirrored his own, and he realized that forming an understanding with her could be as crucial as any trial. Humans thrived not only on skill but also on relationships, alliances, and mutual respect. Perhaps this was the advantage he could leverage here. A sudden knock at his door pulled him from thought. He opened it cautiously to find a young attendant, face pale with worry. "Captain Ward," the attendant whispered, "there are whispers among the council. Some speak of removing you from the palace. They do not trust your kind. You must be careful." He was confident that he could navigate this treacherous political landscape, just as he had navigated the trials of skill and morality. Sleep was difficult that night, but he did not seek it. He reviewed every interaction, every glance, every word spoken in the court. Human minds were capable of pattern recognition and strategy, and he would use every ounce of his intelligence to stay ahead. As dawn approached, Elias stood at the balcony once more, looking over the glowing city of Zyra Prime. The trials were not finished. The challenges of survival, diplomacy, and perception had only begun. Yet in the quiet of the palace, he felt a surge of quiet certainty. Humans were resilient, resourceful, and remarkably adaptable. And those traits underestimated by this alien world would be his greatest weapon. Lysara appeared beside him, silent but watchful. "You have done well," she said softly. "But remember, the court does not forgive mistakes. Allies can betray and enemies can be cunning. Be prepared. You may be surprised at what we can accomplish. And they are more powerful than most suspect." Humans were underestimated at their peril, and Elias intended to prove that nothing could outmatch a determined, clever human. For in the world of Zyra Prime, where predictability was prized above all, unpredictability, human unpredictability, was a weapon no alien had yet learned to counter. The palace of Zyra Prime was quieter than usual that morning, but the silence was deceptive. Shadows moved with purpose along the corridors, and whispers carried through the crystalline halls. Elias Ward could feel it. Something was brewing. The rival faction within the court, those who had grown wary of the human-esque cleverness, were beginning to act. Their suspicion of him had evolved into something sharper, more dangerous, a plan to test him in ways that went beyond skill or morality. Elias had anticipated challenges of intellect, agility, and diplomacy. But now, the stakes had shifted. Survival depended not only on observation and cunning, but on trust, alliances, and the ability to turn an opponent's plans against them. He moved carefully, studying each corridor and attendant, noting every subtle glance or shift in posture. Humans had survived countless hostile environments because they could read people and situations quickly. Today would be no different. Lysara found him in the balcony garden, where alien flora shimmered with gentle light. "They are plotting against you," she said softly. "I do not know the full extent, but I have seen the signs. The rival faction wants to discredit you or remove you entirely. You must be vigilant. Adaptability is what keeps us alive. It is how humans thrive in the impossible. Would you act immediately or wait and watch? Humans succeed by seeing the full picture before acting." Later, he was summoned to a chamber that had been unfamiliar until now. Inside, the rival faction awaited him, their expressions carefully neutral. "We have arranged a challenge for you," one of them said. "It will require strategy, foresight, and courage. Fail, and your reputation, and perhaps your life, will be compromised. Humans excel when they are underestimated, and I have learned that apparent danger often contains opportunity. Mistakes would result in virtual collapse, humiliation, or exposure." Elias studied the map carefully. Alien strategy was elegant but rigid, favoring precision and calculation over improvisation. Humans, by contrast, were flexible, able to adapt to chaos and unpredictability. He realized that this was the key advantage he could exploit. He began moving markers, anticipating enemy positions and reallocating resources in ways that the simulation's creators had not considered. The system tried to predict his moves, but human unpredictability confounded it. He noticed patterns in the simulated attacks, small assumptions that the designers had taken for granted. By exploiting these, he achieved outcomes far beyond what was expected. The simulation ended with the holographic city intact, defenses strengthened, and no casualties. The rival faction's eyes widened in disbelief. They had expected him to fail or make a critical error. Instead, he had demonstrated human ingenuity and foresight, turning their test into a demonstration of his capability. Lysara appeared at the edge of the chamber, watching quietly. "You continue to impress," she said softly. "But the rival faction will not accept this so easily. They will escalate, and soon you may face challenges that test not only your mind but your ability to act in the real world." That evening, during a ceremonial dinner in the palace, the rival faction orchestrated a subtle trap. A message was delivered to Elias, suggesting a secret meeting with an ally of the Queen. The note appeared genuine, but every instinct told him it was designed to isolate him. He considered his options carefully. Humans excelled at pattern recognition and improvisation. The palace itself was a network of observation and subtle influence, and he had learned to anticipate deception. He accepted the invitation, but not blindly. He prepared contingencies, noting escape routes, hidden observers, and potential allies within the staff. At the meeting point, the room appeared empty, save for the soft glow of alien light. Elias stepped inside cautiously. Immediately, shadows moved, revealing members of the rival faction attempting to corner him. Their intention was clear: trap and intimidate the human, expose him to embarrassment or worse. Elias acted quickly, using agility and foresight. He dodged their initial attempt to seize him, then used the environment to his advantage. Walls reflected light, creating disorienting patterns that confused his pursuers. Platforms shifted under his feet in ways the faction had not anticipated, and he maneuvered through them with precision. Every step, every motion was deliberate, turning the palace itself into an ally rather than a trap. The rival faction was skilled, but human adaptability was superior in moments of unpredictability. Where they relied on rigid strategies and assumptions, Elias improvised, exploiting every opportunity the environment offered. Slowly, methodically, he turned the pursuit into a controlled engagement, guiding his adversaries into positions where they could be observed, outmaneuvered, and ultimately disarmed without harm. The confrontation ended with Elias standing calmly, breathing evenly, while the rival faction members glared, frustrated by their failure. The lesson was clear: humans were not easily trapped, and cleverness combined with adaptability could overcome even carefully laid schemes. Lysara appeared silently at the doorway. "You have handled them well," she said, voice calm but impressed. "Many here would have panicked or reacted impulsively. You think differently. That is rare. Humans have a way of thriving where others expect failure. We adapt, we observe, and we find solutions that others overlook. The court has many eyes, and not all are friendly. Yet I must ask, do you understand the cost of your actions? Influence carries responsibility, and one misstep could destabilize more than your standing. We survive because we think, observe, and act deliberately. It allows humans to act where others hesitate." Perhaps she too recognizes that humans, for all their perceived weakness, possess qualities our people often lack: courage, ingenuity, and compassion combined with unpredictability. "I expected nothing less. Humans do not yield to circumstance. We adapt and we endure." Humans thrived in situations where rigidity ruled, where others expected compliance or failure. Their adaptability, ingenuity, and unpredictability made them formidable, even in a world far beyond their own. And Elias, as a representative of his species, was beginning to demonstrate that humans were capable of extraordinary feats, not through raw power, but through intelligence, foresight, and moral clarity. Lysara appeared one final time before he retired for the night. "You have done well, Captain Ward," she said softly. "But tomorrow brings new challenges. The rival faction will not forget today. They will act with greater subtlety, greater cunning. You must be prepared." Humans were not merely survivors. They were innovators, thinkers, and, when necessary, disruptors of expectation. The court might try to trap him, challenge him, or underestimate him, but his species had survived and thrived in countless worlds and situations. On Zyra Prime, he would do the same. For in a society that valued predictability, humans remain the ultimate variable. And that unpredictability, combined with courage, intelligence, and moral clarity, would prove to be the greatest advantage of all. The morning sun bathed Zyra Prime in a glow that seemed almost alive, reflecting off the crystalline towers and casting rainbow patterns across the city. Captain Elias Ward stood on the balcony of the palace, observing the streets below. Today would not be a simple test of skill, intelligence, or diplomacy. It would be the culmination of everything he had faced since stepping foot in the palace. The rival faction had not forgotten yesterday's events. Their schemes, subtle though they had been, were evolving. They sought to discredit him publicly, to manipulate the court into questioning his abilities, and perhaps even to force the queen into removing him entirely. But Elias was prepared. Humans excelled where others relied on strict rules and assumptions. He had learned the patterns, the weaknesses, and the overconfidence of his adversaries. Lysara appeared silently at his side. "The court awaits your next move," she said softly. "The faction grows bolder. They will attempt to trap you openly this time. You must be ready." The air was thick with anticipation. The nobles whispered among themselves, glancing at Elias with curiosity, suspicion, and a hint of unease. Even the rival faction, seated strategically, showed subtle signs of tension. They had expected him to falter under pressure, and their disappointment was evident. The queen arrived shortly after, her presence commanding immediate attention. "Today," she announced, "the final test of Captain Ward begins. It will not only examine his skill, intelligence, and courage, but also his ability to influence events, protect the city, and demonstrate the essence of his species. This is a trial of leadership and wisdom. In human terms, this was an extraordinary challenge, to act decisively in the presence of potential enemies while ensuring no misstep could be exploited. The Queen gestured to a central console, projecting a holographic map of the city below. Several points were highlighted in red, indicating simultaneous crises. One was a potential energy failure in the northern sector, another was a diplomatic dispute that could spark unrest, and a third was an unidentified group approaching the city's perimeter, behaving unpredictably. "You must coordinate the response," the Queen instructed. "Every decision you make will have consequences. You will have advisors, but some may not be truthful. Others may attempt to mislead you. Act wisely." He called upon the advisors, noting their mannerisms and subtle cues. One advisor suggested reallocating energy resources to the northern sector, but Elias noticed a small hesitation in their eyes, a hint that this might be self-serving rather than in the city's best interest. Another advisor attempted to exaggerate the threat from the approaching group. Elias listened, asked precise questions, and cross-referenced their information with his own observations. Humans excelled at improvisation and discernment. He quickly identified falsehoods and misleading suggestions while incorporating accurate advice. He delegated tasks efficiently, ensuring that the energy issue was addressed by trained specialists while simultaneously mediating the diplomatic dispute with calm reasoning. The approaching group outside the city presented a challenge that required both strategy and human ingenuity. Their movements were irregular, and their intent was unclear. Aliens often relied on direct confrontation or rigid protocol to handle threats, but humans thought differently. Elias proposed a combination of observation, controlled communication, and subtle deterrence. Through the city's monitoring system, he initiated a signal that communicated a non-hostile intent to the group, while simultaneously positioning defenses to ensure the city remained secure. The group halted, studied the city's response, and eventually retreated peacefully. The solution required foresight, adaptability, and an understanding of both technology and behavior, a uniquely human combination. The rival faction, observing from their seats, were visibly shaken. Their careful calculations, designed to exploit his mistakes, had failed. They had underestimated the human capacity for strategic thinking, moral judgment, and quick adaptation. Elias had turned their test into a demonstration of human superiority, not through force, but through intellect and action. The Queen's gaze softened, a rare smile touching her lips. "You have done what few could accomplish. You have resolved multiple crises simultaneously, navigated deception, and preserved the stability of the city. Your species is remarkable. Captain Ward, you have proven that humans are more than mere curiosity." They had attempted to manipulate, discredit, and outmaneuver him, but human unpredictability and cleverness had prevailed. They realized, perhaps reluctantly, that this species, so often underestimated, possessed qualities their culture lacked: creativity under pressure, ethical judgment in complex situations, and the ability to anticipate and adapt in ways no rigid system could predict. The Queen's expression shifted from calculation to genuine respect. "Captain Ward, your actions have demonstrated the essence of your kind. Humans are resilient, resourceful, and unpredictable in ways that make them formidable. Today, you have proven that even in a world unlike your own, your species can excel, influence, and triumph without resorting to violence. It is an honor to serve as a representative of my people. We survive, we adapt, and we strive to do what is right, even when the odds are against us. And I admire you, Lysara. Your intelligence, courage, and insight are unparalleled. I would be proud to stand beside you, not as a curiosity, but as an equal. You have not only passed the trials, but have earned a place in our world, human. Remember that this honor comes with responsibility." Their schemes had been outmaneuvered, their plans anticipated, and their doubts addressed by actions rather than words. They had underestimated human capability, and the court now recognized that Elias Ward was not merely a survivor, but a remarkable representative of his species. Lysara smiled softly. "You have truly proven that humans are extraordinary. Courage, intelligence, morality, and adaptability, qualities that define your kind, have been displayed in every challenge. I am glad that my people can witness this firsthand." Underestimation is often our advantage, and I intend to continue proving that humans are a force to be reckoned with. You have not only survived but excelled. For this, you have earned the respect of this court, the admiration of my daughter, and a place in our world. Humans, so often underestimated, had proven that resilience, intelligence, and adaptability were more powerful than brute force or rigid protocol. Lysara stepped forward once more, her expression gentle but firm. Captain Ward, will you accept your place not only as a guest, but as an ally of my family and my people? Will you continue to demonstrate the strength and ingenuity of humanity? Let it be known that humans are a species worthy of admiration, respect, and recognition. Captain Ward has shown that even in the most alien of worlds, the strength of humanity lies not only in survival, but in intellect, morality, and ingenuity. You have proven yourself in every way, Captain Ward. They had attempted to manipulate, deceive, and challenge him, but Elias Ward had turned every obstacle into an opportunity. Humanity, underestimated and dismissed, had triumphed, not through force or intimidation, but through intelligence, adaptability, and moral clarity. As the palace quieted and the sun set over Zyra Prime, Elias stood on the balcony once more, watching the shimmering city below. He had proven that humans could excel in even the most alien of worlds. They were resilient, clever, and capable of achieving extraordinary feats when underestimated. And in doing so, he had not only survived but left an indelible mark on this society. Lysara joined him, her presence comforting yet commanding. You have done more than survive, Elias Ward. You have shown that humans are remarkable, and I am proud to know you. That is the strength of our species. In the heart of Zyra Prime, under alien skies and crystalline towers, Elias Ward stood as proof that humans were more than expected, more than underestimated, and more than capable. They were clever, resourceful, adaptable, and when necessary, unstoppable. And as the night deepened, Elias Ward smiled quietly to himself. In a world that prized predictability, humans were the ultimate variable. And that unpredictability, combined with courage, intelligence, and moral clarity, had proven to be the greatest advantage of all.